Hi everyone, my name is Dave Ng. I'm a general partner at Altaraventures. We are a early stage venture capital fund that invests in Series A and B companies, and we are based out of here in Southeast Asia in Singapore. We also so naturally we focus in the Southeast Asia tech ecosystem. We also look into cross-border opportunities with tech ecosystems like South Korea, especially with South Korea, just given that traditionally there has been a very strong ties between South Korea and Southeast Asia as trading partners, and there's also a lot of collaborations among technology companies in the two ecosystem. So we are very excited to look at both the tech ecosystem in Southeast Asia and South Korea. As to Altaraventures, we are led by 5 general partners. We are all natives of Southeast Asia, and we have decades of experience in investing. And also in our previous lives, we have been entrepreneurs ourselves and business builders ourselves. So we hope to be able to share our experience with the founders that we back and help them to build and grow the business. There has been, I would say, multiple waves of tech activities, startup activities in Southeast Asia, starting as early as a couple decades ago, actually. So if you look at in the 90s, it is all about infrastructure, semiconductors, right? So a lot of semiconductors manufacturing technologies. And then in the early 2000s, it is about the internet, right? This is Web 1.0, as we've seen in many other ecosystems as well. And then in the current wave, which I think started maybe about 10, 11, 12 years ago, it is really about the rise of consumer internet and consumer technologies, the latest iteration of e-commerce, ride-hailing company, right? So this would be companies like your Grab and Gojek. In terms of e-commerce, would be companies like Lazada, Shopee, and then of course there are gaming companies like C Group, right, which was formerly Garena, and of course Razer. So I would say that is at the beginning, the early story at the beginning of this wave. By now, after 10 years, many of these companies are unicorns. They have some of them are publicly listed. But along the way, as we know, following consumer and e-commerce, very often you need enabling technology to go hand in hand with them. And what I mean by that is when you buy things online and on an e-commerce platform, you will need to find ways to fulfill it and then to deliver it to the door, right? So this gives rise to what we call e-commerce tech logistics. So we see the rise of logistics. We see players like Ninja Van, a company that I backed 6-7 years ago. Alongside e-commerce and logistics, you also have fintech. So we see a lot of fintech company that, for example, provide payments solutions, payment gateways, checkout technology, lending, right, alongside to support the entire digital economy as well. And this is what we have seen so far. But I think what is also more interesting is going forward. We believe that emerging sectors like enterprise software, health tech, and education will be interesting. And we believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see increasingly more activities in these sectors and market leaders emerging as well. I think what is very important is to really have a good grasp and understanding of the nuances behind each of the market, especially when it comes to companies, startups that is building and operating for a particular local market. And I think this is where understanding the context of that particular market, the way of doing business, the various regulations, the various intricacies in a particular local market will really matter. Because after all, you cannot really just take like a global model that might have worked somewhere else and try to plug it into a local economy. You really need to also be able to understand the local context to be successful in a particular local market. I would always say that it will depends on the stage of the business and also the nature of the business, because when to go into a particular local market, when to set up, let's say, presence in terms of a physical office, or even boots on the ground really depends on a couple factors. One is where are you at as a business? Are you ready for overseas expansion? And then of course, two is your business model, right? What might be the best way? Is it setting up office, putting boots on the ground and go to market yourself, or going into a market with partners, or going into a market with channels, right? So all these are all fair consideration. Depending on business model, the tactics, the tactical might change. And then finally is also, I think what's also very important is financial consideration, because when you want to go overseas, you really want to make sure that the budget is well accounted for, and you have the right budget and the right buffer to sustain that operations and that expansion. I will always advise founders and companies to take into account before they formally put boots in the ground or set up an office and just have a team over there. Because sometimes it's a bit of timing. You can test the water, maybe with a partner, or maybe with channels, right? With different channels. And then once you get a certain traction and you have a better position, or after you have a significant fundraise, you are more well buffered. Maybe it might make better sense to go in at a point in time. I can give you an example, right? Some of the best founders that I work with, especially when they go out to fundraise, part of it is on the personality side that I talk about, but the other huge major part is actually how do you bring forward and execute on your fundraising plan. So the best founders typically would have already reached out to investors, established a relationship and connection way early on before the fundraising activity actually happened. And many times, this kind of engagement could start as early as 24 months or even 12, 18 months before the actual fundraising. They always have a pitch deck with them, whether it is a real pitch deck or it's just at the back of their mind. And then when they meet up and catch up with investors ahead of time, they will always be talking about giving updates to their business, keeping potential investors informed, so that let's say 12 months, 24 months down the road, when they are actually fundraising, a lot of this work actually has been done, and the investors group that they have kept informed are already up to date and know very well what has been happening with the company, so that actual fundraising exercise become much easier. It becomes just more of an execution, because by then you will already have a good sense on which set of investors are interested in this round and they want to come in, and therefore it really becomes just executing on the plan. Yeah. We are looking. We focus on Series A. We also will look at a Series B as well, early Series B, but primarily will be Series A companies. And I think there will be two broad categories of founders and businesses that we look for. One is Korean founders building for Korea, right? Building for the Korean market, and this very often will be in sectors like consumer related or consumer internet, right? That is related to the Korean market. It could also be in other verticals like healthcare, health tech, for example, or ed tech, education technology, that have a starting point, right, in the Korean market. That is what I call the first category. The second category would be Korean startups that has a more regional and global go-to-market business model. So this would be Korean founders who are looking to expand to market like Southeast Asia, where we will be very valuable and helpful to them in helping them to expand their business. And then related to this, I would say also Korean founders who are already based overseas, or what I call the Korean diaspora, right? So this could be Korean founders who are in Southeast Asia, or even Korean founders in the US, for example, looking to build in overseas market. Absolutely. I think with the right partnership and the right experience, and of course, given a good amount of time, enough time, I think there is a lot of opportunity to build and to basically partake in the market opportunities in Southeast Asia. And I'll give you a few examples. I think the best example is to look at what has happened in the traditional industry. You look at companies like Samsung to Hyundai, right? Whether it is a car auto manufacturer or a consumer electronics company, Korean products, Korean businesses are everywhere in Southeast Asia, right? And if I were to draw that parallel, if traditionally, businesses in the traditional industry could penetrate and be successful in the Southeast Asian market, there should be no reason why tech businesses or online businesses cannot do it in Southeast Asia, right? It's just a matter of when do you come in and have you spent enough time in the region? And we are already starting to see some of the movements, right? We have seen companies like, for example, Coupang looking for expansion in Southeast Asia. TOS is also, has been expanding, really thinking about Southeast Asia expansion. I mean, they are now they are thinking of themselves now as being a super app, right? So they want to bring that to Southeast Asia as well. Or even edtech company, right? Education technology company like Kanda, they have expanded pretty nicely in Southeast Asia. They are pretty strong in Vietnam. They have quite many users in Thailand. They are a very popular math platform in South Korea, and now they are in Southeast Asia. So I think we are starting to see more and more of that. Of course, this has in the past been done by Chinese tech startups, right? We have the ByteDance of the world over here, Alibaba, right? I mean, they are very active. Tencent, right? They have been active in Southeast Asia, and I think now increasingly, South Korean tech companies and tech startups are exploring more and more the Southeast Asian opportunities. So I think in the early stage, things are still very similar to what we see in last year. But I think in the context of Southeast Asia and likewise South Korea, I think a valuation for the early stage is still largely unchanged, ongoing. But I believe when you come to growth stage, things I would say the valuation is definitely investors definitely pay more attention to valuation, just given how the public market has also trended. So I think this year for startups, I would say for the early stage startups, right, where we are investing in the Series A and the Series B, there are still many activities going on. I think many new ideas and innovation happening, and we continue to be on the lookout for all these great opportunities. But I think in the same time, our advice to our portfolios and also to even founders out there who are not part of our portfolio yet, we always tell them that being a startup by nature means that you are in the early stage, early cycle of your business. Therefore, you are more subjected to external factors, external shocks, right? So I think the important here is to always build a strong fundamental, because regardless then of the cycle of what happens at a macro level, as long as you have a sustainable business model, you will always be able to ride it out. You will always be able to ride out the ups and downs. Right? So I think this year will be interesting. I think on the public market side, we will continue to see movement. And then of course, things like the ongoing war, I think that is hard to predict. I'm assuming many of you out there are founders or entrepreneurs or have a dream to pursue. I would say always follow your passion, because when you follow your passion, you have to be doing something right.